Your power went off? We just went live on YouTube and Facebook. And we're live on Easy Live, so don't worry about that. Okay. Alright, this one will be good. We're good on Facebook or YouTube? Alright, I'm gonna start Facebook now. Hello and welcome to StreamGeeks Live. I wanted to take a moment to let everyone know we have a Zoom session going right now, and in that Zoom session, we have 1080p video enabled. So I'm excited to see what you guys think about the 1080p video that we have enabled. I'm also excited to let everyone know that we're going to be answering questions. We've got 10 tips. And before we start, Mike's got a little ticker of our YouTube subscribers. These are the geeks who are actually helping support us. So I wanted to say thank you to everybody out there. Thank you for everybody joining the Zoom session here. Hopefully, we're going to get really good quality Zoom video today as we're live streaming. But thank you again to everyone who subscribed on YouTube and supports us with the memberships, Shireen Grove, 3 Season of Pod, Herbert Goldstein, and everybody over there. Joining me today is Tess Protesto, my co-host. Tess, how are you doing?
Hi, Paul. I'm doing well. It's quite windy over here in PA.
Yeah,
As
you
long as
lost
we
you
have
lost
power, we're
power.
okay.
You lost
I
power
lost
for a
power
second,
for a
right?
minute right before the show.
Wow, that's crazy. Well, let's start with our 10 tips and be able to answer any questions that people have. What is tip number 1 going to be? Well, let's jump right to it. Tip number 1 is to enable Group HD, something that we've done here at StreamGeeks. And in our live stream, we've done some tests. We're able to get 1080p. So this is an interesting feature. I want to be clear, you must be a business or an enterprise level customer with Zoom in order to get 1080p video today. So we're a business customer. That means we pay $19.99 a month per user, which is kind of a lot of money, right? That's $250 a year per user, and you'd expect to get, full HD video quality when you pay. There's some caveats to this, and we'll answer any questions that you guys have, but essentially you can go into your settings for Zoom, and that is how it's done. You can go and enable the Group HD feature. And once it's enabled, you need to ask support. You say, hey, support, I would like to have access to 1080p. They enable it. You get this little checkbox here. And there's a lot of hoops to get this 1080p. Every single person who you want to use 1080p needs to go into their Zoom settings and change it from standard HD to full HD. This has made a pretty big difference for us, and the quality has been significantly better ever since we turned that on. So we'll be able to show that today, and we'll look at some of the analytics. Now, just to give you guys an idea of what Zoom is like these days, most common, probably everyone joining in a grid view is really low resolution. So we're talking, roughly 320 by 240. 640 by 480 is normal, and Tess is going to be letting us know the video statistics she's seeing on her side, but 720p is where you can get with the Group HD feature. And then 1080p, if you go through the hoops of requesting it through your business or enterprise account, you can get up to full HD, which makes a pretty big difference. We have a system called Live to Air here, and we've been using it and comparing it with Zoom, and it's a little better quality than Zoom for bringing in remote guests, but it's not quite the same thing. So it's worth checking it out. We've been using it with our guests to guarantee they give us 1080p quality, and it's been pretty good so far. Now, tip number 2 is just very straightforward. Use an Ethernet cable. Part of what Zoom is trying to do is they are trying to optimize your experience for real-time communications based on the internet access that you have available. And what we've found is that if you are on Wi-Fi, your bandwidth fluctuates, and Zoom puts you down to 640 by 480, 1280 by 720, and it doesn't give you that full 1080p quality. As soon as you connect into Ethernet, you're going to get a higher quality amount of bandwidth for Zoom to prioritize those higher resolutions. So definitely connect to a Ethernet switch. Do not use the Zoom background features, especially if you're having video quality issues. Zoom says right on their notes for the 1080p Group HD feature that when you're using the virtual background, they can cap you at 720, but potentially even lower than that, even roughly 320. It uses a lot of extra horsepower in the Zoom engine. The Zoom application, it requires a lot of computation, and it can reduce what Zoom's able to do with optimizing your video. So if you want to use a green screen or a virtual background, we'll talk about how to use that with a virtual webcam using OBS or vMix or Wirecast. And in our experience, we'll get higher quality up to 1080p when you do that. Now, one of the great things about using a software like OBS or vMix or Wirecast with Zoom, besides just all the great video features that we'll talk about, but is the audio features. And like right now, everyone on Zoom is able to hear me, right? And everyone in the live stream is able to hear me. But I have some really nice audio plugins enhancing my audio to add some compression, to add some noise suppression, so it really sounds great. And I've been on Zoom calls with people from Zoom, with real Zoom employees, and they say, "How do you get your audio to sound so good?" I'm like, well, I'm actually using a professional compressor and a professional noise suppression filter on my audio before it gets sent to Zoom, and that's why it sounds so much better. So you can't do that with Zoom by yourself. You need to use a secondary software. This is showing a free plugin for OBS, but there's some really nice paid ones for vMix as well that we use. Now, if you are going to use a virtual camera like we're using now, you now have the ability to do some production capabilities. So you have the ability to move scenes around, as you're seeing I'm doing right now. And Mike is doing that inside of vMix, giving us a kind of side-by-side shot with me and Tess. And Tess, what do you think about that type of production?
I think it's awesome. I think it's cool to be able to step up your Zoom game. We've all learned a lot this past year with the pandemic, and we're happy to have learned how to sort of make the most of our Zoom accounts. So
yeah, it's great to have you be able to join remotely. And one of our goals was to be able to bring you in just as good a quality as possible to participate in the live streams, even over something like Zoom. And it's been really helpful. Our next tip here is to use hotkeys. And hotkeys are great. Hotkeys are ways that you can quickly trigger something to happen. So as a producer, or even as just a Zoom meeting participant, one of my favorite use cases for hotkeys is to set up some buttons to quickly play audio clips. So if there's an awkward silence, you can play crickets. If somebody says something great, you can play applause. And there's a million ways to use hotkeys to automate what's possible. What's nice about it is if you're just a single person joining Zoom and you don't have a producer, which is pretty much everybody. I'm very lucky to have Michael as our producer, but a lot of times you don't get a producer. If you have those hotkeys, you can quickly kind of automate, okay, switch from my webcam to my presentation. Okay, do this, do that. And you can do hotkeys directly in Zoom, and you can do hotkeys with a software like OBS. You can do hotkeys with a really cool application like Stream Deck. So there's a lot of ways to use hotkeys, and I think it really can up your Zoom quality. Now here is a tip that I'd like to throw to everybody. This is good for any Zoom meeting, but especially ones that are more important, is to break it up into 4 acts. And basically it all starts with an agenda. So any great Zoom meeting or live stream has an agenda. What is this live stream about? Well, it's about upping your Zoom game. But to really be clear with everyone who is joining the live stream or the Zoom meeting, what is it about? And then act 2 becomes, what's the conflict? What's the problem that you're trying to solve? Whether it be, something at your church where it's you're talking about scripture, or whether it be about, the topic at hand where there's some type of conflict where people say, why do I need to care? Why is this important to me? Then you're proposing a resolution. A lot of, Zoom meetings today are being done to conduct business, and it's important to come up with a resolution of some sort. And then finally, you don't want to leave that hour-long Zoom meeting or live presentation without having a follow-up plan. So just at a high level, to have those 4 kind of acts in your head and planning it out as if you're an event planner can make a big difference in the quality of your Zoom meetings. Now, I wanted to mention that using virtual sets is a great way to spice up your video productions, and it goes way beyond what you're capable of with what you're capable of with virtual backgrounds in Zoom, for example. So essentially, with virtual sets, and we have over 20 virtual sets you can download for free, you can very easily use OBS or vMix or Wirecast to create a little bit more of a dynamic experience if you do like to have virtual sets and use green screens. A virtual set combines a foreground and a background and puts you kind of in the middle, and it makes it look more realistic. It takes a little bit more work, but it's really fun, and we've got all these free virtual sets you can download in the PTZ Optics user group. Now, here's a good one of using a lower third. And Mike maybe can throw up our lower third onto the screen to show you what we're doing with our lower third. Oh, Mike's going to show a virtual set. Okay, here we go. Here I am in a virtual set. Now, we don't have this one set up perfectly. I don't have a green screen here, but this is the type of thing that you can you zoom into it, Mike? Are there some zoom ins in the virtual set? There's not? Okay. So that's a virtual set, just as an example. And throw up a lower third to give an example of what that is. And lower thirds are a great way to just display your name and maybe your phone number, an email, a QR code. Lots of great ways to do that. That's the example of a ticker, which is not a bad thing. But then we also have a lower third that we use on our show. There it is. And you can do animated lower thirds to bring in some. It'll surprise people. People will go, wow. I really, what are you doing? How are you doing this? And you can put together some really great stuff, especially if you're doing sales presentations or important presentations. You want to have some supporting media. It's a great way to go. Another thing a lot of people have been excited about is showing countdown timers inside of Zoom. So for those of you that joined our Zoom meeting before 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, you noticed there was a countdown timer and some music playing. And so countdown timers are being used in a lot of virtual events, and a lot of times when people have a certain amount of time to present, you can actually overlay a 10-minute countdown timer or a 3-minute countdown timer. We have some great videos on YouTube on how to custom make countdown timers with really easy plugins for OBS and other systems. So countdown timers have been pretty popular. And I thought we already talked about, tip 10, celebrate that you're doing a great job and really trying to, crawl out of the monotony of the boring Zoom meetings and the Zoom fatigue and do something a little bit more special. So Tess, I'll start with you. What was your favorite tip? And then we'll open it up to Q&A.
Well, I thought that the tip that was the most fun was actually the hotkeys, because I think it's like a really creative way to spice up your meetings and break up the seriousness that they sometimes are. And I think it would really surprise your meeting attendees if you were to use that.
Yeah, the hotkeys are great. Favorite. That's one of my favorites as well. It allows you to quickly play a video clip or an animated stinger effect or a sound effect. I think the sound effects especially really make it fun, break the ice, and help the meetings to kind of be a little bit more fun. I've loved doing that in our meetings. And without the hotkeys, it's kind of tough because you're in a meeting, you're thinking about the meeting, you need to be able to quickly go boop, play the applause button, and just have it.
Yeah, when you don't have a producer, that's definitely key. No pun intended.
So let's open it up to Q&A now. That is our 10 ways. I'm going to walk over to our Zoom session over here, and you guys can feel free to unmute yourselves and ask as many questions as you like.
I can start things off for the Zoom user group or the Zoom group over here. C4 Technical Team says, can I still get 1080p when using NDI virtual inputs as the camera input instead of the OBS virtual camera? And I believe he's here with us.
Hi. I'm Joseph.
Hi, Joseph.
Yeah. I've been figuring for the past few weeks or I think months that we've been trying to figure out to how to have like an SD or HD quality of video by using the OBS and the AI tools because if we because when we check our quality or on the statistics tab, our upload is like 360p. Then we don't know how to configure it because we've already enabled the group HD in our Zoom account, but still our video quality is still on 360p.
So first of all, when we're talking about, okay, so when I have it on, I was turning into active speaker mode, and as soon as I start speaking, it looks a little goofy. So let me turn that back. Sorry. So you went through and you enabled Group HD mode, which is great. That's what you want to do. So you can enable Group HD mode. Then did you contact Zoom and ask them to upgrade your account to 1080p?
We didn't because we have a conference last month and we purchased like the business account. Then after that month it has expired, then we just go on our regular pro account, which is it offers 720p, right?
Yes.
Or only the business account? The pro account offers 1080p.
Okay. So yeah, you do need to have the business account, and in order to get a business account, just to be completely clear, you need to have over 10 licenses in your business or enterprise.
Oh.
So unfortunately, they're probably going to cap you at 720p. I would not use the virtual background feature. The NDI virtual webcam should not be an issue. That's just like a regular webcam. But when you go into the video settings inside of Zoom, did you check the HD button?
Yeah, I checked it.
Okay, good.
Because for us, it is okay for us the 720p for the pro account, but that is the issue that we have because we've got a fast internet in our for our broadcast studio. I think it is like 200 to 300 Mbps, but that was the quality that we have. But right now, I think it's really on the Zoom account because right now I check on the statistics. My output resolution is 720p. So I think this is better compared to the regular 360p because it really affects our quality in our church broadcast.
Well, since you mentioned that, I'm going to bring up the statistics that we're getting here right now, and that's probably worthwhile. If you want to show the screen over here, Mike, I'm going to hit the up arrow. I'm going to go to video settings, and I'm going to go to statistics here. And first of all, it's showing that this is a wired connection. I'm receiving 600K, which is not a lot. That means there's no way I'm really receiving an HD video quality. But let's go ahead to video here, and it's telling me, right now it's telling me I'm getting 256 by 144, and that is because everyone is in grid view. If I go over here to view in full screen, and I change the view to speaker view, you can see it's now changing to 1280 by 720 at 30 frames a second. So with this setup here, it's probably not going to hit 1920 by 1080 because there's so many people on the stream. That's one of the things we've noticed. It really only hits 1080 when you have like less than 4 or 5 people. Let's see what happens tonight. It's still about 1280 by 720 here. But still, that is HD. And 1080p is
that is the quality that we wanted to achieve.
Yeah, I'm with you. Well, you're doing everything right. You just got to get your business account upgraded. And even as we're showing here, because we have the business account, we have the 1080p enabled, and we're still not quite getting 1080p video from everyone because there's so many people on the call.
I see. But for the pro account, it should be 720, or they will cap it to 360p.
Yeah. Okay.
Because what the Zoom account that we have is a pro account, so it should be 720, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's the most you're going to get out of a pro account right
Yeah, but
now.
the thing is, as we try to configure it, it's just still capped at 360p. Or maybe we should call Zoom to help us out.
Yeah. I mean, it really is a Zoom issue. At that
Yeah,
point, there are alternatives to Zoom that will guarantee 1080, like live to air is one that we could show. Um,
yeah,
but Zoom, it is possible to get 1080p, but you have to have a business account, as we just talked about.
yeah. I see.
So thank you for your question. I'm going to get up and keep walking around a little bit, chit chatting. Tess, what
Thank
else do we
you.
have? Yeah, no problem. What else? What other questions are coming up today?
I just wanted to remind everyone really quick to register for today's giveaway. We are giving away a PTZ Optics webcam at the end of the show.
Yep, that's it. Thank you
And
for mentioning that.
yeah, I shared the link to register for that in the chat. And if anybody on the Zoom call would like to unmute themselves to ask a question, I'll give a moment to allow anybody to do that.
So it looks like Isaac and I are using the raised hand function. Maybe you can ask Isaac what he has to ask. His hands up.
Yes, please.
But thank you, Tony, for that. I appreciate that. And Tess, thank you. And my question is now, because when we're using a PTZ 20 times SDI camera, and we were using Restream, and the video and the live picture, when we do the two screens, there's a major delay there. And I guess my question is, if we wanted to use Zoom, the stream through Zoom to Facebook and YouTube, would that fix that video delay issue that we had?
That's a good question, and it's one that I think we should definitely talk about. So, in video streaming and video production and the worlds of Zoom and those nature, there's real-time communications, and then there's live streaming. Okay, so when you're live streaming to YouTube, to Facebook, to anywhere like that, to restream, which adds even more latency. It could be 30 seconds, it could be 60 seconds until people see what is actually happening in your church. With Zoom, it's real time. And this is very, pertinent to this conversation, because what's great about Zoom, there's like no delay, because you and I can communicate. I know when you stop talking, when I stop talking, and there's literally almost no delay at all, which makes it really nice for displaying on the television if that's something that you want to do. Zoom quality goes down a little bit because they're trying to maintain real-time communications, and that's what the tool was really developed for. YouTube and Facebook assume that you don't care that it's going to happen 60 seconds or 2 minutes later, but you really care about the quality, because the RTMP stream that you're using is pretty high quality in comparison to what Zoom is doing. Now, what's amazing is that Zoom is starting to offer 1080p. And it wouldn't surprise me if they started to offer 4K in a year or two, because the technology is getting so great, and Zoom has no latency at all. If you use Zoom for live streaming, you will still see latency on YouTube and Facebook. But I'm wondering if the screens that you're showing in your church are using Zoom, or are they looking at a YouTube screen? What is on the screen that is providing latency?
Well, it's OBS, and when we look at it through OBS, that's where we see the latency.
Okay.
If we use the restream, we still see the latency. So but when we look at it just in a regular, like my other monitor just has a natural picture there of what everything is, as you say, live at, and then that versus what I'm looking at, you see the latency, the delay, and everything you're talking about now. I see you as you do it. And then if I look at it on this one, you then said it, and then now it comes. So it's like, and even when he talked, it's like they're not meeting up.
Yeah. So again, anything on YouTube and Facebook with live streaming is going to be delayed no matter what. It's really, I don't think that technology will ever get to real time. That's not what it was designed for. I think that then the next question I have for you, it sounds like there's a delay of the camera getting into OBS. And then the question that I have for you there is, how are you connecting to the camera? Is it via SDI? Is it via HDMI? Is it over an IP stream, which tends to have a little latency? How are you connecting to the camera in OBS?
Well, the SDI is going into a Blackmagic, and then it's coming out on the other end, HDMI, into the monitor. Excuse me. It's coming out, and the Blackmagic is Ethernet into a PoE. So it's powered over internet, and that's where, it's like the one that's actually the HDMI cable is plugged into, that's where I got the real time. And then the other one is where I got the, when I open up OBS, that's where I got the.
Well, you're using a lot of pieces of technology. And so basically what happens is each part in the chain adds some latency. Okay. So the camera itself, when it plugs in HDMI or SDI to something, it's going to look pretty much real time because there's nothing in between it to add any delay. But then when you add the Blackmagic, you're adding some more delay. And so then when you add an Ethernet adapter to another converter, you're adding even more delay. So what you need to do, likely, is to get that camera directly into OBS before it hits the Blackmagic, or see what you can do to take pieces of technology out of the chain in between the camera and the OBS computer to eliminate the latency.
Okay, so how do I convert the SDI cable? Is there a piece I put on there that would then, how do I change that connection up?
So basically you just need an SDI to USB capture card.
Also, can I suggest something called a delay DA, distribution amp, which is used in broadcasts. That will help solve your latency issue.
What is that called again?
Something called a delay DA, delay distribution amp. That's what it is, and it will fix all your problems. It's a specialized piece of broadcast equipment which is used in between pieces of equipment.
Okay, so how do I, where would that be inserted at?
A good place you can probably start at B&H out in Manhattan, New York.
No, I'm saying once I get the piece of equipment,
yeah,
then where do I insert that? Now,
well, you got to know what you got to do. You got to go straight from your camera directly to the delay DA, and then from there, the DA is just a distribution point where you can feed one signal to a variety of different sources. That way the delay will not be there. So you have camera going into the DA, and out of the DA, you can feed that to your switcher. You can go to live distribution. You can do anything with it.
Yeah, take a look at a distribution amplifier. Also, there are frame grabbers or a capture card that will take SDI in, convert it to USB, and have what's called a loop through. So if you still need to feed one location, it might be more affordable to get a capture card. It takes SDI, USB into your OBS computer, and then it loops the SDI back out into Blackmagic. So there's a couple different options on how to do that. But I think that's a pretty good solution for you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So Tony, thank you for waiting.
No problem. Paul, let me ask you a quick question. Can you, when you talked about hotkeys, I'd love to see a demo of that, by the way, if you could do it real quickly. Because I have, you know, I get on meetings where we allow comments of 30 seconds, right? And so if you go any longer than that, I'd love to do a hotkey that bing, that lets you know, hey,
Yeah.
30 seconds is up. But the other question I had in regards to that is, if you're on a Zoom session and the host mutes you, but you're connected via virtual OBS camera, is that gonna disable your valve?
Okay. So first of all, if you're using OBS with a virtual webcam and virtual cable for your audio, Zoom doesn't know the difference between that and a regular microphone and a regular camera webcam. So if they mute you, yes, you will be muted. If they unmute you, you'll be unmuted. It does present a challenge where I've seen some people muting themselves in OBS and then forgetting and muting themselves in Zoom, and now they're double muting themselves. So it does introduce a possible layer of concern. Now, answer me this: what are you using OBS? Would you like to see a demonstration in OBS?
Yeah. So when because when we get on, it's like 70 participants or more at a time, right? So I use my clock, my timer, right? It replaces me because I have a regular, you know, Logitech 720 right to my USB webcam, and so I use that. I turn on my virtual camera, and then it shows I show my clock, and then I'm able to you know, using OBS, I could record our meetings, you know, and things like that. So that's really all I'm using. But I like the idea of the hotkey to create a sound effect to let the friends know, listen, you know, you had 30 seconds and you've gone over. Or
Yeah.
even the applause hotkey. That sounds cool too.
It's great. And we actually just posted a video on on how to do that on our YouTube channel. So I will recommend that you check that out for a full tutorial. It's right on our YouTube channel. We just posted it this week. Let me see if I open up OBS here, if I can show this to you. Big fan of OBS. Great ways to use hotkeys. We actually use vMix here. So we use the vMix hotkeys. But oh, I forgot. You know what? I'm not going to be able to do a live demo. I installed Wirecast and it broke my OBS somehow. So I apologize. It's very straightforward. It's basically in the settings of OBS. There's a whole hotkeys section, and inside the hotkeys, you can assign it to any input or any source to just trigger it to play. A Stream Deck is a nice way to go about it. To have a little Stream Deck. There's a free version of Stream Deck for iOS and Android phones called Up Deck, and you can just turn your phone into a little area to play sound effects.
Nice. Cool.
You had another question on YouTube, Paul.
Okay.
Somebody was asking about your setup today, and specifically, you know, the big question of how you're bringing Zoom into the live stream and live stream to Zoom.
Gotcha. That's a good one. Let's cover that. Would be a good one to cover today. So what I'm going to do is I am going to open up my NDI phone, and this is always fun because this basically turns my phone into a camera, and then I can take you guys behind the scenes to see what's possible and how we do all of this. So I really enjoy this. This is a really fun. Oop, there we go. Mike turned it up. So to show you guys this, I'm going to take you behind the scenes and show you what Mike's up to. So Mike's running vMix on the left screen, and on the right monitor, he's bringing in Tess. And Tess is pinned on this computer, but on that computer, we're showing the grid view. So you can have multiple computers kind of connected to the same Zoom meeting and bring them in different ways. But essentially, on the vMix side, we have a screen capture. Let's see if we can find that real quick. And there it is there. So that is basically anything that happens on this screen is captured. So if we unpin Tess, or we go to grid view, or we change to gallery view, that's all reflected directly into our desktop capture. And so you can do that with OBS. You can do that with vMix. You can capture a screen and bring it in. And then Mike even then starts to mix it together. So he mixes his camera with Tess's camera, or he mixes, this camera with that camera. And he does a lot of different mixes of that desktop capture, which is our first source of capturing Zoom into the video production. So if we go back to that one, I want to mute it. So that's how we get that. Now the harder part is the audio. And so the audio is all handled down here at this little mute button here. So if we click the up arrow there, you'll see that we have a virtual audio cable, cable A, as our microphone, right? That's our selective microphone. We got a lot of them. The one we're using is virtual audio cable A. As our speaker, we're using cable B. So what we're doing, and you can do this with OBS, and we have great tutorials on it. You could do it with vMix, is we're taking all of the audio in the audio mixer and sending it through a virtual audio cable A. And so in that way, we can play videos, we can play my microphone, we can play sound effects, we can play whatever we want, and we can play all of that, and it all goes out to the virtual audio cable A, which is our microphone in Zoom. Now, how are we capturing Tess and everyone into vMix and then streaming it to YouTube and Facebook? Well, we take the speaker, right, which is the audio coming from Zoom, and we bring it into vMix or OBS, whatever you're doing, as a microphone. And so virtual audio cables can be used as both microphones and speakers. So the speaker in Zoom is actually a microphone in vMix. It's not easy to say all of that, but there you go. That is how it's working, Tess. What do you think?
I think that was a great rundown, but we do have full tutorials and videos on our StreamGeeks channel for that, for more information.
All right, because that is a key one. I mean, we talk about it a lot, so I'm glad that we hit that. So are there any other questions coming in the chat that we should be
one
chatting?
more that I think that we can cover before the giveaway. Bob is asking, would we use call-in with the TriCaster? We need Steven for that one.
Our TriCaster expert is not here. I'll show you what we're using for call-in, because it is applicable. Mike, I don't know if we can zoom or if we can get this camera on. This is our EPTZ camera. It's got a decent shot of our live to air system over here. And this is pretty cool if you're a TriCaster user. It works with anything that supports NDI. So if you use OBS or vMix or Wirecast, this should work directly, or a TriCaster, right? And so what this does, this is called live to air. I'm glad we're finally getting to this application here. We're not using it right now because today's all about Zoom. But what live to air does is it gives you, I'll sit down maybe. It gives you the ability to bring in 4 guests in 1080p quality. and it outputs all 4 guests on our local area network via NDI. So we have 4 guests, totally clean feeds, right? There's no Zoom interface. There's no messing around with 720 or 360 by 480. You can bring all 4 channels in. You can keep them in a kind of like caller mode, right? Where they're not on the studio, but we can have an operator wearing a headset like this chat with them and talk to them. So it's pretty interesting. At the end of the day, you've got 4 1080p guests on your local area network. We bring them into vMix when they're needed. They're always 1080p, and that with Zoom you can get 1080p, but as soon as you have like 20 or 30 people in that room, it's almost impossible to get 1080p. So this allows us to have the Zoom meeting with a lot of guests, and thank you all for being here, but then also have a few guests that we give even higher quality access to through this system. So this might be a solution for you, Bob, on your TriCaster. It's only $500 for the software version of this, and it outputs NDI. But I understand TriCasters have their own call-in system. I just don't know enough about it myself to speak to it. So that's that. And I think we're ready to do a giveaway.
Isaac, you did have your hand raised.
Oh.
Do you have a question for us?
Who was that?
Your hand was raised, the little icon. I don't know if that was left over or if you did.
Well, it was left over, but I just wanted to kind of follow up because I'm able to do 2 things, be here with the 2 screens, and I was listening to what Reddy had said, and I was looking and I only see a Sony BKPF-L23 video delay distributor board. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, that can be one of them.
Because that's the only thing that they show in B&H, and that would be installed into the computer. Is that correct?
No. I'm talking about a separate unit. It's standalone. It's more used in broadcast media, in television facilities. I'm not 100% familiar with the ones within the computer systems.
Well, this one says it's a mountable compact interface unit. It's a rack mountable compact interface unit.
Yep, you're right. That's correct. That will be used, and you should be okay.
Okay.
The rack mountable is totally different to what you would install in a computer.
Okay.
Yeah, and those guys at B&H, they are pretty well trained. Or you can talk to any of your local broadcast dealers, and they will be able to advise you.
Okay. All right. Well, I thank you for this because, of course, you know, I am one of those ones that have to run stuff through the other people for them to approve and say, you know, when you're not footing the bill and you have to get something done, you know, church protocol is, you know, trustees have to approve it and you have to show the need for it and all of those good things.
Well, let's give BH a call on that one and test. We have a giveaway today. Someone's going to win a webcam, a PTZ Optics webcam. These are really nice PTZ Optics webcams. Tess, why don't you pull a winner for us?
Well, I pulled our first winner, and it's John Collins. I'll put that in the chat. Let us know you're here, John Collins, and I will draw a few more, and it's kind of first come, first serve.
All right. So Tess is going to pull a couple more. You have to be here when we do our live giveaways. You just have to be here to claim your prize. So Tess is going to drop a couple names until we get someone who's present. I had a lot of fun today. Thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. It really helps us commit more time to what we're doing, and hit the like button on YouTube if you're watching this. It really helps. Again, thank you to everyone who has become a YouTube member. You can become a YouTube member for 99 cents a month, and a lot of these people down here are helping us support us and do that. So thank you. We really appreciate it. So that's
a question.
Well, yes. What's your question?
I wanted to make sure that just logging into the Zoom gets us into the drawing, or did I miss something? That was
as long as you're here, and you just let us know you're here. The first person to do that will get the webcam.
Okay.
So we had John Collins and Jared Hefner, and I just pulled. Okay. JJ Mustang says that he is Jared. So just shoot me an email so I can verify your email address, and we're good.
All right. Thank you everyone so much for spending some time with us today. Here's the last question for you guys. What do you want our next show to be on? We've got a lot of ideas, but I love to hear from you guys. Did we miss something we should cover next time? Any thoughts, guys?
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
I think I speak for everyone. You guys rock. I want to say thank you. I've been watching you guys for years. These shows are so inspirational and educational. Trying to start my company, and I've learned almost everything through you guys. I can't say thank you enough.
Well, that makes me feel so great. It really feels good, because that's exactly what we love to hear. So are you excited to be starting that new business?
I am. I'm getting really close. I'll contact you guys later, but thank you.
My pleasure. Well, that makes me feel great. What do you think, Tess?
I think that is a perfect way to end the show and start the weekend. So thank you for the kind words. Much appreciated.
All right. You guys have a great weekend.
Thanks. You too. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.